Hi there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. So we've got lots to get through this week, including the Irish Oaks from the Curragh that took place on Sunday, and one performance that I think is one of the most sensational performances that I've had the privilege of analysing here on The Verdict. That to follow a little bit later on. Firstly, the Glasgow Stakes at Hamilton on Friday evening, one of their big races of the season. It attracted 4 runners. It was over 1.5 miles. Listed status for this race, and 5-4 West Wind Blows. Nahani 2-1. Zane Surinder 9-2, and Groundbreaker a 13-2 shot race featuring 2 horses around in the Derby. Nahani finished 7th, and back in 9th place West Wind Blows. Let's have a look and see what happened here. West Wind Blows came out of stall number 1, and out of 3, Groundbreaker in second, Zane Surinder from 4, and Nahani from stall number 2. And it was West Wind Blows who makes every yard of the running here to success for the Crisford team. And this is a pretty good horse, I think. Probably bound for the Voltigeur at York. That could well be this horse's next stop. Let's just analyse his Derby run first of all. Well, he really, despite finishing behind Nahani, who's in second at this stage, he ran better than Nahani because he was up with a strong gallop throughout, and he stayed there for quite a long time. Here, he went straight to the front. He was quite keen down the hill, and indeed this race's tempo was quick, slow, quick. Now that's a function of the nature of the track, because they run downhill, then they go uphill and round the loop. That's when they go slower, when they steady, and then they come downhill again, so they quicken again when they come back downhill. But overall, that quick, slow, quick tempo produced a good time. Finishing speed percentage of 99.86 was just about spot on. So this was an excellent front-running ride, a no-nonsense ride from Ben Curtis. And it produced a good final time, 2 minutes 17.39. And I think this winner's done really well, because he was quite keen in the early stages, yet he was able to finish off his race quite strongly. He quickened coming down the hill. His 8th furlong, 11.4 seconds, about to fire that now when Ben Curtis just gives him a bit of a squeeze. And that gets them at it in behind towards the outside. Groundbreaker in the yellow colours, he finishes second. Zane Surinder in the red cap, already under the pump, finishes third. And Nahani was back in 4th place. Another point to make about West Wind Blows is he has improved since the hood has been removed. It's a great angle in my opinion. Other horses have benefited from this. Rarsel, trained by Mick Appleby, 2 excellent performances, best of his life since the hood was removed. Eternal Pearl, who won at Newmarket at the weekend, she's improved since her hood has been removed as well. And I think it's the same for this fella. This is a career best effort from him. He's getting tired up the hill in the closing stages, 12.02, and then about 13.5 seconds for the final furlong. But he did the damage by going a good gallop in the early stages downhill and then quickening down the hill into the home straight. And he was way too good for his rivals. You'd have to say that Nahani was disappointing. He dropped right away. Maybe he paid for chasing West Wind Blows, and he couldn't keep up the tempo that West Wind Blows could. Groundbreaker on the right hand side of your screen in the yellow looked a little bit awkward under pressure, and Zane Surinder never threatened to get involved. But West Wind Blows just gets better and better. He stays this trip pretty well, and in the Voltigeur, in perhaps a small field race once again, he may be able to dominate, and he'll probably run better than some think he might, because he'll have some more illustrious opponents there. But he's improving, this fella. He's getting better and better, and despite his keen going nature, he does find at the end of his races he's pretty useful, as his Derby form showed, and there's a lot more to come from West Wind Blows. At Friday on Newbury, there was a good novice stakes. It was over 7 furlongs, and I think it's a race that's going to throw up quite a few winners. Bresson was the 5-4 favourite. Classic was 7-2 from 4-1. Tarjay was well backed, 7-2 from 9-2. And Lenormand was 7-1. It was 16s and bigger the rest. This is definitely a race to keep a close eye on. Horses for your racing TV tracker in here for sure. It was won by Tarjay, who jumped out of stall number 3. In second place was Dancing Magic for the Roger Teal team, came out of 10, ran a big race here. Third place was Bresson from 7, and the fourth horse came from stall 4, horse called Classic. And that, I can tell you right now, right at the beginning, that is one for your racing TV tracker. Here we go, we'll send him on the way. The principals were prominent throughout here in a race that was run at a good tempo. It was a good test at the 7 furlong trip, and I think the best stayer in the race won the race. But there was all sorts going on here. Let's highlight where the principals are. Tarjay is in the yellow, just there, prominent. Dancing Magic is a bit more towards the stand side, but nonetheless prominent. There's the Gosdens, Bresson, and then in behind, there you go, is Classic, who finishes in 4th place, just getting a toe into the race. And Classic, on debut, was quite well backed, got some trouble in running, and can be marked up a good deal. The tempo of this race, it was good and honest. The finishing speed percentage, 100.81. They didn't mess around as they can sometimes in maidens and novice stakes, go steady, nurse 2-year-olds into the race, look after them. This was an end-to-end gallop, and Tarjay looks like he's going to be beaten about 1.5 out, but he just stays on too strongly for his rivals. He was briefly outpaced in the 5th furlong. The 5th furlong, the leader, which is Bresson, went 11.74 seconds there, and you can see Tarjay being niggled along in behind. That's when Bresson fired that 11.74, but from there on in, Tarjay got rolling and fired the fastest final 3 furlongs. A win doesn't look likely here, but boy is this horse strong at the line. Meanwhile, keep your eye on Classic. Trouble in running, about half a furlong back, now hands and heels running on quite nicely late on. Tarjay now is getting rolling towards the outside and fires the fastest final furlong. Really strong at the line compared to his rivals. 12.54 was the fastest final furlong. And there's Classic finishing right on the heels of all of the others. And Classic, I think you can rate as being an unlucky loser. Certainly would have been second if ridden more prominently and not got trouble in running. For Classic fired the second fastest final 3 furlongs behind Tarjay at 36.37. Just watch the run Classic gets. It's not good. I think the winner, Tarjay, is a real stayer. I think he wants a mile already. He's certainly ready for that. He was briefly outpaced by Bresson, who's a bit of a speedier individual. Maybe wants to come back in trip. He'd certainly win at 7 though, you'd think, after this. Tarjay now begins to get rolling towards the outside. Big run from Dancing Magic. Surely there's a novice in Dancing Magic for the Roger Teal team. And Tarjay rolling on strongly down the outside to give Owen Burrows yet another winner. He's going very well at the moment. 4 winners from his last 10 runners. But that, I think, has the look of a very good novice stakes. Plenty of horses caught the eye, particularly Tarjay when he stepped up in trip. A mile will definitely suit, and Classic is a surefire winner going forward. I mentioned at the top of the show that we were going to look at one of the best performances that I had the privilege of analysing here on The Verdict, and this is the race in question, and the horse in question is Grocer Jack, who landed the Bet365 stakes. He was the 5-4 favourite. He was backed in from 7-4, so a big run seemingly expected. Cadillac 15-8, Finest Sound 15-2, it was 8-1 Tasman Bay, and Desert Encounter 12-1. Not many runners, but a pretty strong affair, given that the second Cadillac was rated 111 coming into this on the back of a very good run when runner-up at Royal Ascot. Let's have a look and see what happened out there. And this was sensational from Grocer Jack. He jumped out of stall number 2, and he virtually makes every yard of the running. Finest Sound was back in second place from stall number 4, and Cadillac in third, with Desert Encounter rounding out 4th spot. Here we go. So why is this so good? Because people will watch this and say, well, he's just got himself an easy lead out in front, Grocer Jack. They've ceded him an advantage, and he has just been able to fill up through the race and then pull away in the closing stages. Why this was good was because he went hard early on, and he was pretty keen as well. But nonetheless, he was able to run a spectacular final time, and he was able to run 7 successive sub 12 second furlongs Furlong 3 to furlong 9, he went the following: 11.6, 11.1, there he is going keenly, 11.54, 11.55, 11.35, 11.38, 11.91. If he'd gone even 12s, I'd still be eulogising about this performance, but no, 7 sub 12-second furlongs. He went pretty keen in the early stages, but he kept going. His fourth furlong, 11.11, that's when he just grabbed hold of the bit a little bit, but he kept rolling. He really should have paid for those early exertions and for the heat of the race through those furlongs 3 to 9, but he didn't, and he kept going. This was really impressive. The fast final time was, according to Grocer Jack sectionals, 2 minutes 2.57. And if you think for a mile and a quarter, which this race was, the benchmark is 2 minutes. 2 minute benchmark. Top class horses can just about get under 2 minutes, like Monarchos did in the Kentucky Derby all those years ago on dirt at Churchill Downs, but he's gone just over 2 minutes here, and he wasn't stopping. There's hold up horses in the race. There's Desert Encounter. He likes to come off a strong pace, and he does on the rail. He can't get anywhere near this really, really impressive winner. Finest Sound runs on. Cadillac as well runs on. Not much between them for second and third. The winner's won by 7 lengths, and the second horse is rated 111. All day long, this fella is 120 plus. I have no doubt about that at all. And this is one of the best performances we have seen all season. Not many horses can run as hard and as fast as he did and put away his rivals the way he did. He is a very good racehorse indeed, and he's not long been with the Haggis team. Only his third start for them. I think they were a little bit surprised by the effort, although he was strong in the market. Maureen Haggis was interviewed at Newbury for us, and I think they were a little bit stunned about the manner of the success. They probably fancied him, but I think the manner of the success really did overwhelm them somewhat. I don't know where they're going to go with him now, but surely a crack at a Group 1. He might not get his own way out in front necessarily in a Group 1, but when he's won before, he's not made the running. He's previously trained in Germany, so he's quite versatile tactically, but he was really good out there. It would take a very good horse to have beaten him on this day. I know the ground was fast, and I know he got out there in front on his own, but that was not an easy lead success. That was the success, according to the sectionals that he ran, of a top class racehorse, one of the best we've seen this season. The Hackwood Stakes at Newbury on Saturday afternoon was a Group 3 sprint over 6 furlongs. Co-favourites are 3 Man of Promise, Minzal and Rohan, 6 to 1 Happy Romance and Diligent Harry 9s, 12s and Bigger the Rest. And this race went to the Owen Burrows trained Minzal, who was pretty well supported and had run well in the champion sprint at Ascot last year. As a lightly raced horse that did this in good style. Let's have a look at this race and see how it pans out. Jim Crowley on board in the Shadwell colours. He breaks pretty well, and he's always prominent in a race. For a sprint at this level, Group 3 was quite steadily run. How do we know that? Well, the course track finishing speed percentage tells us all we need to know. You would expect something round about 100 or perhaps dipping under 100 in a competitive sprint, but oh no, 105.62% was the finishing speed percentage. It means that these sprinters finished the race, well, the winner did, 5.62% quicker than he ran the rest of the race. And you'll see in the closing stages it is something of a bunched finish. And those that raced prominently were to fill the first 3 spots. There was one horse who was a bit unlucky out the back, and that was Rohan, who I think still remains in very good form, and his run through needs to be tracked. Just keep an eye on him. He's there not far behind the winner, Minzal, who is just there at this stage. They began to quicken up the 3rd and the 4th furlong here. They were the quickest of the race, 10.99 seconds and 10.84 from the leader. Here comes Minzal. Rohan with the big white face beginning to be launched by Holly Doyle. Now Rohan likes to come off a very strong gallop, as he did when winning in the Wokingham. Here he's had to sprint from the back. He's done so, he's almost got to the front, and then he pays for that big effort coming from the back and weakens as Minzal, who was better placed than him, throughout, stays on strongly in the closing stages. I think Rohan has shaped very well from off the pace, and he can win again in pattern company. He has done already, of course, in his career. The winner is entered in the Betfair Sprint Cup. That is a possibility for him, but he's got to hold it all together. He's quite lightly raced and he's had his issues over time, but if he can progress from this and put 2 or 3 runs back to back, that sort of race would not be beyond him. You can see how many of these are involved in the closing stages, a few getting trouble in running. It was courtesy of the steady-ish early gallop, a race that didn't wind up until the 3rd furlong, and there's plenty within 3 or 4 lengths to this stage. Normally you'd see them a bit more strung out for sprinters in this Group 3 grade, but the winner, he's a bit better than the grade. I think you can mark him up a little bit. He quickened in good style, as highlighted by those sectionals in mid-race where he picked up really well, and Rohan is undoubtedly a horse who remains in cracking good form. Sprinted his way just about to the front and then paid for that late on. All in all, a good sprint, a very good winner, and another winner for Owen Burrows. We've already highlighted Tajim, a nice novice who won earlier on the card. Well, I think Owen Burrows is a yard to very much keep a close eye on going forward. He's got his horses in tremendous form. Let's turn our attentions to the cover on Saturday in the Group 3 Anglesey Stakes. For 2-year-olds, 6 furlongs and 63 yards was the trip. Little Big Bear, the 2 to 5 favourite. Schlanawalya was 5 to 1. Bad Bee was 6 to 1. 9 to 1 Yosemite Valley. 150s the other 2 in the race. And the odds-on favourite did not disappoint, jumping out of stall number 6 here. Little Big Bear got the better of Yosemite Valley, who came out of stall number 1 and really stepped up on a debut effort that was good behind Schlanawalya. Bad Bee was in 3rd. Schlanawalya actually finished back in 4th place, still looking a little bit green and clueless, but still ran really well up in grade. Good effort this from Little Big Bear, who's been pretty impressive this season. He's unbeaten in his last 3 starts. That included the Windsor Castle at Royal Ascot. Of course, the only time he was beaten was on his debut, where he was very green, but since then he's been hugely progressive. He sat in 2nd here off what was just an average gallop. They didn't go that mad really. The finishing speed percentage 107.65, so he's finished the race 7.65% quicker in the final couple of furlongs than he ran the rest of the race. So he has quickened up in good style. And if you look at the course track sectionals, well, that is evidenced by his final 3 furlongs where he does quicken, and you can actually see that happen. 11.22 seconds, then a 10.91 and 11.65 to finish the race. So here's the 2 pole there, and he'll go now 10.91 as Ryan Moore really gets after him. He goes past Bad Bee pretty cosily, and then you can see far side Yosemite Valley running on, a horse who on debut got a lot of trouble in running behind Schlanawalya, who's trying to run on down the outside, looking a little bit green, and took a while to get the hang of things, but ran on all right late on. But clear daylight between the winner and all of those in behind. He's a very good looking son of No Nay Never, who had a really good weekend because his other son Blackbeard, of course, won the Robert Papin in France. So No Nay Never going great guns as a stallion of 2-year-olds at the moment. And this fella quickened in very good style. It was by no means a test of stamina at the trip. It was a little bit of a crawl early, and then they sprinted. One wonders where he might go. Well, if you look at his entries, he's in the Phoenix Stakes over 6 furlongs, the Gimcrack over 6, the Nunthorpe over 5, and he very much looks like a sprinter. He's a big, strong horse, and he might be a horse that may not want to go a mile, although he has been installed at the head of the market for the 2,000 guineas by some firms. But he all over looks a sprinter, and I just mused as to whether the Commonwealth Cup might be more his bag next season than perhaps a guineas. There is stamina on the dam side of the pedigree, that said, but he looks to be a fast horse to me. He's got a sharp turn of foot, a good final 3 furlongs that he fired here, and there might be a fair bit more to come from him. He's won by clear daylight from some promising types in behind. Admittedly, they were upped in grade and they weren't good enough to push him to the max, But they're quite nice horses in behind, Yosemite Valley and Schlannerwallier. And this fella, Ears Pricked, has beaten them handsomely. And it'll be very interesting to see what route they take with him. But look at there, he's got plenty of substance. And I think he looks all over a sprinter in the making. The feature event at the Curragh over the weekend was the Juddmonte Irish Oaks Group 1 over 1.5 miles. Magical Lagoon was sent off the 5-4 favourite in the absence of the likes of Emily Upjohn, who had transport problems and will go to the King George. And also Tuesday as well. She's had a busy period and they decided to give her a rest and freshen her up for the autumn. Toy, therefore, was the Aidan O'Brien representative with Ryan Moore on board, 5-1 second favourite. Right, let's have a look at what happened here. It was indeed the favourite who won, Magical Lagoon, for the very much in form Jessica Harrington yard. And the first thing to say, I think, is that this was quite a steadily run affair. It did turn into a little bit of a dash. It didn't go mad in the early stages, and the finishing speed percentage tells us all we need to know about the pace. 108.42 according to Course Track. So Magical Lagoon is able to come home 8.42% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than she ran the rest of the race. And it really is quite a steady gallop, and she's prominent, which I think is important at the Curragh in most races. Here she is, sat in second place throughout, and Toy, who finishes in second, is right in there at this stage. I think horses towards the back, particularly one, were disadvantaged. And I thought that Emily Dickinson, who came out of stall 2, highlighted at the back there, is a filly to keep an eye on going forward. She was inconvenienced by the run of the race here, which, as I said, was very steady indeed. You can highlight on the Course Track sectionals where the pace really picked up, and it was the 9th furlong. So they just went very steady until that 9th furlong, and then it picked up. It went from a 12.84 furlong to an 11.83, and thereafter they picked up, going 11.58 and 11.57. And the winner showed a tremendously game and tough attitude in what I think is fair to say was a substandard Irish Oaks. It's a shame that Emily Upjohn had not got there, and you'd have to think, watching this, that she would have won pretty comfortably if she had been able to turn up, but she's a big player nonetheless for the King George. So they run uphill here at this stage, and the pace has not been wound up yet. But once they start to turn here, this is when they begin to pick it up. They've just passed the 5 pole. Look at Toy, the big white face, Ryan Moore on board. She travels up really strongly in this contest, but she just doesn't have quite as much as Magical Lagoon, who deserves plenty of credit. She'd won the Ribblesdale at Royal Ascot, and she's backed up here to gain her first ever Group 1 success. But I think Aidan O'Brien will be very, very pleased with Toy. This was her first run at 1.5 miles, and she's shaped very well indeed. This is where the taps were turned on once they turned into the home straight. Magical Lagoon well placed the way the race was run, and the first to strike for home. Here comes Ryan Moore trying to get to Magical Lagoon. She shows a very good attitude. I'll just halt it there. Here's Emily Dickinson, who definitely needs marking up for her effort. She wants a bit further, she wants a stronger gallop, and it'd be interesting to see where Aidan O'Brien decides to go with her, but the race is to be won with her. And now the front 2 set down for a bit of a battle, but it's Magical Lagoon, who always got the impression was winning this, and beats Toy, albeit narrowly. Care de Guerre in 3rd place, and Emily Dickinson back in 4th. So a race that very much turned into a dash, really. This is where they were sprinting just as they came round the bend and up the home straight. It paid to be handily placed, and the best filly in the race has won whatever, but she was always prominent, and she showed a tough and gutsy attitude to win for Jessica Harrington. She said afterwards that she thinks that this filly will improve next year. They're going to have a crack at the Yorkshire Oaks. I think that's probably the obvious route, and I think that's what they want to do, and maybe keep her in training next year. And she's obviously a very tough filly. Toy, I think they'll stick to 1.5 miles with her. She quickened up well with the winner. She got the trip no problem. She was just not quite good enough on the day. Shane Foley. saluting the crowd at the Curragh, having taken the Irish Oaks on an improving filly who on the day sprinted better than her rivals in a Group 1 that you thought might have been run at a stronger gallop than it actually was. There's Jessie Harrington posing for photos, a trainer in red hot form at the moment. So that was this week's verdict. I hope you enjoyed looking back at some of those races. There was plenty that we could choose from because there was lots of good weekend action, but I hope I chose some that were of interest to you. The star of the show, well, there is absolutely no doubt about it. I think he's top class. It was Grocer Jack winning the Steventon Stakes at Newbury. For me, he was absolutely sensational. One of the best horses we've featured here on The Verdict for a long time. See you next week.